Welcome back to the Lynx Golf Podcast. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I'm Al Lunsford, digital editor for Lynx, and Joe Passoff is my co-host on your screen as well. Joe, today we are going to talk about courses that we are adding to our wish list for 2025. If we could just go to any of these places uh, without any restriction, some of the ones we're going to mention are private access. Some are also public, but if there were no restrictions and we had our way and our wits about us and we could just go and play all of these places, these are the courses that we're picking as part of our wish list for next year. Uh, we each have three, as we like to do. We pick three and have some honorable mentions. So, uh, would love to play any of the courses on your list that you sent over. I hope you feel the same about mine, but I think we have a good mix and not a lot we've actually played before um, on either side. So Joe, this is an exciting conversation.
Well, definitely, Al. You know, your list has a few of the newer golf courses, but they're open. Mine are, well, the youngest one on my three is 35 years old. Just some courses that I have never gotten to, and I'll explain the reasons why. Even in the back nine of life, I still want to get to them. Um, and we'll explain. So we do. It's a fun mix of private, public, of resort, of old and new, and that's why you do a wish list. You know why any of us thinks about, whether it's a baseball stadium you want to see, or a restaurant you want to try, or a city you want to visit. We got the same thing in golf courses. So for those of us who like to travel, um, hey, it's good that there's still some targets out there for us to try to hit.
2025 could be our year. So let's line it up. I'll go first, Joe. My number one, I think I may have mentioned this before. It feels like we've had this conversation maybe in the past too on another episode. And I don't recall, I didn't look back or listen back to that episode to see what my picks were then. But uh, still, nonetheless, number one on my list would be to go out to Hurricane, Utah. Yes, that's Hurricane, Utah, and see at Sand Hollow Resort the championship course, 2008 design from John Fote and Andy Staples, near Utah's Zion National Park. I've done the national park tour in Utah before, but I didn't actually get to go to Zion as part of that trip. This is kind of a twofer for me, Joe, to see Sand Hollow and also to go see Zion and do a little hiking as well. Um, Sand Hollow is kind of sandwiched. If you drew a line from Salt Lake City to Las Vegas, it's almost in the middle of that. I think a little bit closer to Las Vegas in the southwestern part of Utah. It's been likened to playing on Mars. You have this setting amongst the red rock that people well know out there in Utah, and particularly the back nine on top of these desert cliffs. I mean, these are some photos that don't look real, look like they could have been photoshopped on a picture of the planet Mars. Just put some golf courses on there, some golf holes on there, but uh, I purely have to go to experience the visuals of this place. That's what I'm very interested in, and taking some photos that I know will engage well on social media. It's perennially ranked among the top, if not the very top course you can play in the state. They also have a 9-hole links course designed by Fote and Staples in that same year in 2008. Nice compliment to the big course. This is sort of like a bucket list one for me, just to see what I've seen in pictures in person. So Sand Hollow, heard a lot of good things. That's number one on my wish list for 2025.
Well, Al, wonderful choice. And maybe it should have been higher on mine because it's almost ridiculous. This is just how life happens sometimes, that I've made three or four separate trips, maybe three, to the St. George, Utah area in the southwest portion of Utah and never played or seen Sand Hollow. And as a golf course that rose to the prominent position it did as the number one ranked course that you can play, and did make several top 100 public course lists and that kind of thing. I mean, yeah, I mean, anybody, especially in the Southwest, it would be on your list of courses to go see. But and it's ironic because I have seen Black Desert, kind of the new kid in town, and then also Entrada at Snow Canyon, very highly ranked, mostly private now, but that was a Johnny Miller, Fred Bliss design that David McClay Kidd almost completely redid. I mean, I think the point I'm getting to is that when you think about travel and golf, sometimes it's a tournament course you want to play, but more often than not, it is a photo, a picture you've seen of this golf course or of this place. And that's what was always important to me as a young guy. I'd hear about a tournament course or I'd see it ranked, see it on television. It's the image that came out. Sometimes it was just an image, a photo in a magazine. Uh, that's how it was with Royal County Down with me. And I'd say, one day I want to drink in that view, and then finally get the chance to do it. And so when you mentioned the Red Rocks, you mentioned wanting to hike around them and the backdrops at Sand Hollow, the championship course, kind of renowned for this stretch of holes, 12 through 15 on the back nine, that, apparently are otherworldly magnificent in appearance and playing value and so forth. So, okay, you've sold me on your first pick on your wish list for 2025.
And like you said, I mean, Black Desert's there. Entrada, I'm looking at more from a list we did in Utah. Best public golf there. Copper Rock, Coral Canyon. I mean, you can check all of these off on one trip. Would be kind of the way to do it. And yeah, my wife and I love hiking, so that would also be part of it for me. And she'd be tagging along and riding the golf cart. I think she would enjoy it just for the views. Let's go to number one on your list.
Okay, another one that is quite remarkable that this far into my lifetime of traveling to golf courses and writing about them, evaluating them. I still have yet to play or seen in person Shadow Creek in North Las Vegas, Nevada. And Shadow Creek was almost a running inside gag with me for years that I had not gotten there because I had so many close calls. Uh, Actually had invitations, something scheduled in 1990, the year after it opened. Um, and the then general manager, did not like the treatment that Golf Digest, which was my then affiliation, gave it. And so he uninvited me. And that wasn't my first uninvitation to Shadow Creek. Had a chance to play with one of Fazio's lieutenants, but my sister was getting married at the time, and chose the latter. Steve Wynn, who built the golf course, his brother Kenny read a story I liked in 1993 and liked it and said he reached out to me, thought I would be someone who would appreciate what Shadow Creek was, and I never quite took him up on it. And then 7 years later, uh, Steve Wynn and MGM Mirage were divested of that golf course. So it was no longer in Steve Wynn's control. Um, Later, I wound up doing, I'm sorry, MGM then took it over from Steve Wynn. But then I was invited to do a story about high rollers and the entertainer Danny Gans secured a tee time there, Al. And I explained to the very nice general manager my rough history with it, and I was so excited to finally play it. And the day before I was flying up here from Phoenix, he called and said, Joe, your bad luck continues. We've had to clear the course for tomorrow. Couldn't tell me why. And I'm like, "Oh, what does that mean? Does that ever happen like at Augusta National or Cypress Point? You had to clear the course. Does that mean President Bush was coming? Does that mean Michael Jordan was coming? I don't know. To this day, I don't know who it was that cost me my round at Shadow Creek. Well, okay. So Shadow Creek was so difficult to get onto that it made it an ultimate get because it was only through Steve Wynn's invitation in the first 10 years that you got on. After MGM took over, it was kind of you couldn't make a tee time, but you were invited to. You could inquire, and if you gambled enough at the hotel, they would look into getting you a spot on a Monday through Thursday. It got easier and easier as the years went on, but it was still kind of Monday through Thursday, tremendous green fee and caddy fee and so forth. But hey, if you're spending that kind of money in Las Vegas, you're not going to miss 5 hours, 6 hours away from the tables. So why it still means something to me and it's at the top of my list is because from an architecture standpoint, it was Tom Fazio's statement basically to the rest of the world that with enough money behind the project, you could do anything you wanted to with any piece of property because this was a absolutely lifeless plot of flat desert. And he transformed it through features, landscaping, earth moving into something that looked like a Carolinas kind of golf course, or even Florida. Very lush, green lakes, streams, and all the trees and vegetation that went with it, all put there after the fact. So, yeah, it still earns enough architectural merit, even now, 35 years later, that it finishes in top tens and top 100s and so forth. But for the way it influenced architecture and showed what could be done with enough money and enough imagination, that's why I still want to see it.
The before, I'm sure people have seen the overheads, the before and after photos, like you talk about when they first built that golf course. You can really see like what was there and what that plot was because it's just barren desert completely surrounding this property. Now it's been developed quite a bit around it. You know, crossing off the course that has the highest green fee in America is a badge of honor for sure for some. I bet just to say, I did Shadow Creek would be much better if you got an invite from someone. But hey, if you're in Vegas and you've earned a little coin, it's a nice little thing to do while you're there. Hosted an LPGA event in January of 2024, I believe. Joe, I want to get your live reaction because I got a text while we were recording, and by the time people will listen, this will already be out there. But LPGA Commissioner Molly Marcos Simon just stepped down as we've been recording this podcast. So an LPGA tie there. They'll be searching for a new commissioner. Interim commissioner will be Liz Moore. I worked for the LPGA with Liz. I didn't cross paths with Molly Marcos Simon, but Liz will be a nice interim commissioner to get the job done while they search for someone else. She's great people, good at what she does, works in legal for LPGA. So live, I don't know if you have any reaction to that or not, but
I
they
do,
did Shadow Creek host an LPGA event. I
I
was tying that in.
absolutely do, and it ties in exactly to what we're talking about. I think, unfortunately, for whatever the reason, she stepped down, and we'll learn them obviously in the coming minutes, days, and hours, and the rest. Um, there was a sense, there was a sentiment. There was a bad transportation system that was set up that was a real black eye at the Solheim Cup. And then there was also the sense that at a time where women's athletics professionally And on the amateur level, it was soaring in popularity, especially driven by Caitlin Clark. That there just wasn't enough done to boost the fortunes of the LPGA Tour. And Shadow Creek's a perfect example, is because there were actually 4 or 5 of these match play events on the LPGA Tour played at Shadow Creek, which should be a big deal because that's where Tiger would have his challenge matches. Um, and when he was in Las Vegas for those made for TV events, Tiger versus Phil back in 2017 or 2018. Um, we've had these match play events, but it's been kind of a who cares
Yeah.
because the fields have been so bereft of star power. It's a long week. It's also when they were holding them in May, mid May, late May, pretty hot up in Las Vegas. And that's a lot of golf. And it's right on the edge of a lot of major championships for them. And you thought Las Vegas, match play, uh, Shadow Creek, this has got to be a huge event. And instead, for the most part, it was anything but. So, again, we'll have to learn a little bit more about the reasons behind the departure. But, again, the lack of impact from the match play at Shadow Creek, it was a little bit of a microcosm of was it a swing and miss during her tenure at the LPGA Tour?
Yeah, fair. That's a great point. There definitely blemishes on that resume. You can talk about the dinner at the Tour Championship where none of the players showed up for the sponsor dinner. Um, at the same time, tough act to follow. Mike Wan was really leading an ascension on the LPGA before he left to take over at the USGA. But we'll see. Excited to see who they pick and where that goes. Hopefully, it is a positive move for the LPGA. Um, okay, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Now that we got the news item breaking in on our conversation, so I'm going to go over to a course that opened in 2020. I think it officially opened, Joe, in 2024. Um, they had some preview stuff maybe last year, but in January of this year at Palmetto Bluff in Bluffton, my old stomping grounds next to Hilton Head. Crossroads is a reversible 9-hole course from King Collins Golf Course Design. From what I understand, it is member only. So if you're a member or guest of a member, that's how you play Crossroads. The May River Golf Course has access to guests of the Montage Resort there at Palmetto Bluff, but Crossroads, I believe, is just member only. It's a mixture of par threes, par fours, par fives on a 60-acre plot there. Cashing in on this reversible course movement that, got popular a while back, kind of faded, and then has come back recently. You see Forest Dunes, the Loop is a reversible course. There's a few others out there that have been added, but this one's brand new. There's no tee markers, so players can kind of choose wherever they want to hit from. King Collins, people know that name from Sweetens Cove, Landman out in Nebraska, known for their kind of wild, very imaginative shaping and designs. Out here at Crossroads, there's dune ridges as tall as 40 feet, green complexes that look like, it's hard to describe. They're fingers sticking out all over the place and different ways you can access the putting surfaces. For the members, it's a nice complement to that 18-hole May River course that's so well regarded, Jack Nicklaus design. And this is also newsworthy because they just announced that Corin Crenshaw will be building a course at Palmetto Bluff to open in late 2025, maybe 2026. So Palmetto Bluff, at one point, just an 18-hole course property, expands and gets this little 9-hole course that looks and sounds really, really cool. And then they'll get another 18-hole course as well. So quickly they'll go from 18 to 45 or 54 if you're counting that as 18 holes because it's reversible. nine either way. So it looks great. I'd love to get out there and see it, as a guest of a member or in a media obligation as well. This is a wish list, so I'm putting it on there, Joe.
Yeah, fair enough. Um, and again, a golf clap to another inspired choice. The idea that whether it's private or not, the fact that the architects and the developers are doing everything they can to maximize the golf enjoyment out of a small space. The reversible aspect can't be easy to bring off. It has been saluted from what Tom Doak did at the Loop at Forest Dunes in Michigan. It all harkens back to the fact that the old course at St. Andrews was played in both directions a century or two ago. And so, although the concept still is fairly novel, sometimes it's even hard to grasp how you pull it off. But obviously, King Collins pulled off, a stunner at Sweetens Cove, and and the fact that they were entrusted here. Palmetto Bluff is such an interesting property because 25 years ago, when they started to develop this, maybe even 30 years, there were grand plans for multiple courses. It was an absolutely enormous tract that they had, from the old uh, taking trees and making paper mill, from what I remember, just ginormous. And the plan was to have a whole bunch of golf. Well, they did get the Nicholas course built, May River, and it is lovely, absolutely wonderful. One of my favorite public access Jack Nicklaus courses, and truly reflective of the low country setting right along the May River. You could couple of holes, reach in and pluck out some oysters. That again, if you're so inclined, others prefer to concentrate solely on the golf. But the fact that Palmetto Bluff is finally moving forward after all these years with extra golf, and it's going to be tremendous variety. I mean, certainly May River is a low profile example of Jack Nicklaus style, but Coeur Crenshaw is completely different than the typical Nicklaus philosophy of design. So you throw in Crossroads, as you mentioned, 9-hole, played both directions with King Collins, and the kind of shaping that they do to make the golf field so interesting. Yeah, yeah, that would be something for members and lucky guests to look forward to for a long, long time to come.
Absolutely. It always kind of, I got ate dinner out at Palmetto Bluff at one point and never got to play the golf course there. So it's always kind of teased me being right there in Bluffton. So it would be nice to, if the core Crenshaw course comes to fruition and opens up in some capacity at the end of 2025, then I could play every course there that they have. That would be ideal. So this is maybe a long-term goal instead of a short-term goal.
All right. It's still wish list.
Yes, absolutely. All right, what do you got on your next choice?
Yeah, Al, next up on my wish list is another badge of shame for me. Yeah, I know. Because if Shadow Creek, my top choice, was the top ranked public access course, even though you had to get a little bit fortunate in your stay at an MGM property. Um, the number one purely public golf course, after more than 30 years of travel, I still have not had a chance to play, and that is Bethpage Black. Yeah. Um, it would just seem the most logical course to have on my list because although I've been lucky enough to sample a lot of the great private courses in the US and the rest of the world, I did a lot of my writing, a lot of my travel advice and writing on public access courses. And Bethpage Black is at the top of that list. Not only that, with US Opens in its past, and then a PGA championship. And of course, in less than a year, 9, 10 months from now, the Ryder Cup comes to Bethpage Black. So the PGA of America and the rest of the world getting another look at this brutally hard but relentlessly fair test of golf on Long Island in New York, and not too far a trip from the city. You're not going out all the way to the East End as you would. So, I've been to Bethpage, and I've even played the red course, kind of the second ranked course there from A.W. Tillinghast. But yeah, the black. There was a time in my life where I wasn't taking the best care of myself, and it's walking only at the black, and really wasn't sure if I could survive Heart Attack Hill walking up to the green on the 15th hole late in the round. I'm actually healthier than I was in those days, and so it does appeal. And I think of it a little bit, that Tillinghast had inspiration from Pine Valley, that some of the hazards there, the sand hazards, there's no water hazards, are enormous, huge diagonals, monster par fours, super thick rough, a set of greens that can just get really fast. There's nothing wild and crazy about any of the greens, but a reputation for difficulty that's like no other public access course, probably anywhere. So, yep, I've watched enough tournament golf from Bethpage, been to the facility, also played the red course, and this is the best of the best, the toughest of the bunch as far as U.S. public golf, and I would definitely like one go at Bethpage Black.
Yeah, another badge of honor you're putting on here is to say you played the black, you are coining yourself a highly skilled golfer by even taking the tee at Bethpage, because they give you plenty of warning to not do so unless you got some skills. So kudos to you for even making it to the first tee. Yeah, the hype around Bethpage is gonna go up when we get to the Ryder Cup, and to be able to secure a tee time, play it in Ryder Cup conditions as well. If you're going to get the chance to play it next year, it's probably going to be uh, gnarled and sharp as a great white's tooth. It'd be a good time to go and see it. I've not seen it. This is another one I haven't done. So wishfully thinking, yeah, I'd love to play Bethpage in 2025. Sure, sounds good to me.
Well, I know our the editor in chief at Links magazine, George Pepper, has played there, and his son, a very good low handicap golfer, has played there quite a bit. And when I did a piece not too long ago for Links on the ultimate taxing test, maximum beatdown, it was good that George's son, I think, it got back to George in some way. I want to try to remember his name. Um, and just said, yeah, that was pretty much spot on. That even for a low handicap in this day and age, it still plays that hard, um, from hole to hole to hole. So, well, maybe you and I can make a pilgrimage there, Al, and suffer together.
Would look forward to that every single minute of it. So, Joe, the of all the new courses that opened in the past year or so, the one course that I hear the most about in the most favorable fashion is Old Barnwell, course that opened in Aiken, South Carolina. Right about the same time, Old Barnwell and the Tree Farm, Zach Blair's first course project, opened, and it was kind of like this 1-2 punch in Aiken, and who's going to take the pole position there. And I often will somebody will mention one or the other, and it's kind of like, oh, well, have you played Tree Farm, have you played Old Barnwell, and what do you think, and how do they favor? And actually, a lot of people have said Old Barnwell gets the nod there, and that's totally subjective too. Other people said the tree farm, but um, it just seems to come up in conversation a lot that people have gone and seen Old Barnwell. It's this type of place that no one really has a bad thing to say about it, and so as we know, we have to seek these places out and figure out for ourselves what all the hype's about. It opened in 2023. Brian Schneider, who's the senior associate at Renaissance Golf Design, Tom Doak's design group, as well as Blake Conant. They're the two architects there. Uh, Built on 575 acres of sandy soil and rolling hills surrounded by towering longleaf and loblolly pines. So, typical sandy course in the middle of South Carolina, kind of close to Augusta, Georgia. So, as a lot of these places do, Old Barnwell's private, but they allow public access during Masters Week. So, they have some information about that on their website. But here's the description. I'll read it from their course website that gives you kind of a feel for Old Barnwell. This 18-hole gym requires strategy, shot making, and a sense of humor, culling inspiration from English heathland courses like Woodhall Spa and Swinley Forest. Old Barnwell presents top flight players with an old school challenge that invites craft and creativity while still offering an enjoyable, non intimidating experience for the high handicapper and beginner. That secret sauce that they talk about in golf course architecture. Enjoyable for the beginner, challenging for the avid player. They seem to have figured something out there because everyone kind of has this consensus. There's a lot of half par holes, drivable par fours, uh, holes where if you try to take on that risk to get the reward, the punishment is severe for a miss. Just a lot of big, bold architecture out there from what I've seen in pictures. Interestingly enough, this is one of the really cool things I saw recently. They designed a 15-hole, what they call a kids course at Old Barnwell. It's meant to be played by kids. In fact, and I don't know if this was just a joke to go along with it, but I heard someone say that if you're an adult, you have to be accompanied by a kid to play it before noon. So kind of like that reversal of the standard
Sure.
golf course. You know, kids have to be accompanied by an adult. No, adults have to be accompanied by a kid here. They've got a hole that you can go straight for the green, or you can go around to the side, and they have like a ramp into a tunnel. It's an actual tunnel hole, so kind of mimicking like a miniature golf course there. And then there's a hole called the Penguin Hole that a kid won in a design contest, this 8-year-old, that has these two penguin bunkers with a ramp right in front of it. So you can shoot like a low running or even putt it and ramp it over the bunkers and onto the green. Uh, I mean, totally creative and innovative sort of idea out there. They've also got another course that they're going to build called the Gilroy, and it's called a holiday course, is their term. I don't know if you've ever heard that course, Joe, but it's essentially presenting players with strategy and fun in equal measure. So more like a, non-serious form of the game. Don't know what a scorecard like that looks like for a holiday course. That's the first time I've heard that term. I don't know if you've ever gotten that one before, but got to see what all the hype's about at Old Barnwell because there is a lot of it and it's all positive. So it's got to be good, right?
I think you've checked all the boxes for the reasons you need to get there, or at least put it on your wish list about getting there. It has achieved in its young life some already pretty high rankings at prestigious places. That enough for most course connoisseurs is a reason to get someplace. Somebody else has thought enough of it to rank it so highly. Wow, you do want to go see what all the fuss is about, considering it hasn't hosted a big tournament or something that would have otherwise put it in the national spotlight. So, that's a golf course that, I think about that period of after the year 2000, and we were still going so strong with building real estate oriented golf and kind of had to fit a certain plan and corridors and that kind of thing. Only Sandhills in Nebraska and Bandon kind of had taken the opposite tact of not being tied to real estate and still being high profile. So I think what folks figured out after the recession of 2008, 2013, you had all these firms, including associates at these firms, with all this incredible passion and knowledge for architecture, but nowhere to practice it. You just weren't getting enough jobs. And then finally, as a lot of these golf only kind of meccas began to take hold, with or without real estate, but it was all about the golf, and started to move up and way up in the rankings and other people's wish lists, you started to have owners and developers that say, you know what, yeah, that's what I want here. And that's why an architect, or the architects in question here, who would get a chance on a piece of property like this and say, express yourself. We know you've got it in you. Now go show us. And that's what's been happening. We've got struggles in building or even renovating courses out west here, especially in Arizona, Southern California, mostly because of water restrictions. And it's been really disappointing, disillusioning, to not have that kind of new activity. But in the southeastern United States, and I'm speaking primarily of South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, although you can throw in North Carolina, Alabama, in places, but especially South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. There are courses that have been built in the last 6 to 8 years, a hoopy match, broom sedge that's on the way, that we've talked about on our podcast before. Hungary, a Tom Fazio course with a very special purpose at the club, that did host a PGA Tour event. Now you talk about Old Barnwell and Tree Farm and some of these others, and there are many others that are popping up, little popcorn popping on the top of the stove, like, oh, there's another one. There's another one. I want to go see it. It looks great in the photography. The descriptions sound good from the type of land it's on, and the passion and imagination and skill of the architects. Yeah, private or public, you want to go see courses that will really resonate with you. So I get why you chose Old Barnwell. And again, tip the cap, man. It's one I'd like to get to as well.
You mentioned it, Joe. The golf.com put out their top 100 courses in the U.S. for 2024-25. This is a course that debuts at 51, just behind courses like TPC Sawgrass and Bandon Dunes at 48 and 49, but ahead of Whistling Straits at 55, Congressional at 61, Pasatiempo 67. I mean, you kind of go down this list. Harbortown 69. This is a course that debuts on this top 100 list ahead of some really, really famous and well-regarded courses. I mean, that's a huge deal. So it feels like there's a lot of hype around this place, and maybe deservingly so. So I'm gonna try to figure out a way to check this one off my wish list.
Sounds good. For my third choice, Al, uh, I'm going old school again with a little recent twist. And again, when I look back on the courses that I had a chance to play, for one reason or another, it didn't happen. This one also figures in fairly prominently for me, as an architecture fan and also a golf historian. And that would be Oakland Hills South Course in suburban Detroit, Michigan. Okay. Is that sort of a pedestrian choice given all the new courses that are popping up? Not for me. Oakland Hills means a lot to the game in the grand scheme of things. Uh, I did get to cover, first time I saw it in person, the 1996 US Open. Was there for Lynx magazine and was again kind of astonished at how difficult it was for these guys. It was not terribly long. Even then, just a little over 7,000, and they U.S. Open style cut the par from 72 to 70. But I saw the best players in the world really struggling to get around an even par, and to see an approach shot hit that if you found the wrong portion of some of Donald Ross's most severe but cunningly contoured greens, you're looking at a three putt, which is exactly what happened to Davis Love on the 72nd hole that kept him from the winner's circle. Tom Lehman seemingly hit a really good drive on the 72nd hole, tugged it just a shade, but it was enough to wind up in a bad spot. And in the end, qualifier, Steve Jones took that U.S. Open. Remarkable. But you think of the other aspects of Oakland Hills, and especially the South Course, it was one of Donald Ross's better golf courses, maybe not his pinnacle. We reserve that for Pinehurst number 2 and Seminole, a couple of others, but right up there. What it means to me as a golf historian and an architecture historian is what happened to it in 1950. Al, when you think about the 1950 US Open at Merion, you think of Ben Hogan and the famous one iron and 7 over par, and he wound up having to win in a playoff. 1949 was at Medina, Kerry Middlecoff winning. Okay, why do I mention those? Nobody was talking about who the architect was or the architecture of the course. Just it was hard golf, and a couple of golf's biggest names happened to win. Well, 1951 was the year everybody was talking about architecture, and specifically architect Robert Trent Jones Sr., because he was asked by the club to come in and stiffen the old Donald Ross test. Just make it more challenging for the post World War II game, which was mostly flying it in the air. Well, he did that all right. And he didn't really touch the greens per se. They left them the Donald Ross greens, but narrow the fairways, kind of wasp wasted through flanking bunkers, which may not have been that strategic, but it said, okay, you're going to try your driver here? You better be straight. And if not, you're going to lay short of them off the tee and have a long shot coming into these difficult greens. It really set up the U.S. Open prep for decades. And so, yeah, after that 96 U.S. Open, I had a chance to play it the next day, but it was, believe it or not, carry your bag open to certain members of the media. And again, I was not the healthiest fella in 1996. It just, with the rough that was set up the way it was, with rains that had gone on, I just couldn't do it. Again, you get a little healthier, you enjoy the walk a little more. Still not positive about carrying my bag at Oakland Hills, but I would in this day and age. And the fact that they've had so many fantastic tournaments since PGA championships, the Ryder Cup in 2004, a Gil Hanse true restoration that I think reopened in 2021. And then, of course, the devastation of a clubhouse fire. And now in the rebuild phase, maybe they're close to finish. Maybe they are finished. But one day before my travels are done, for all of that history associated with Oakland Hills South, together with an outstanding design, that's number 3 on my wish list.
A lot of people will remember that from 2 years ago, the huge clubhouse at Oakland Hills catching fire, um, seeing the imagery of that. But yeah, knowing the history of this place, in later in 2022, after the fire, it was announced that Oakland Hills had gotten the two U.S. Opens, four other USGA amateur events on the schedule. So 2034, people will get a lot more familiar with Oakland Hills. I think there's a U.S. Women's Open between now and then as well. They hosted the U.S. Junior Amateur this year. Uh, it's a beautiful property. I mean, the clubhouse itself was uh, presidential, but turn around and look at the golf course and you'll see what they call the monster from Donald Ross. And exciting, renovation in 2021 to shape things up, restore things. Gil returned the greens back to their original sizes and specs, as he likes to do at a lot of properties. And it looks wonderful. It would be nice to go and check off and walk in famous footsteps again at another place. So I love this pick. Uh, I think this is one of those places that, since it's not in the regular rotation of the majors, maybe gets forgotten a little bit as the years go on. But hopefully, people remember, as they did with Oak Hill. I felt the same about that place as well. Um, and people, really see what this place is all about. So exciting addition to 2025 in your wish list, Joe.
Appreciate it, Al. You have
Yeah.
any others on your list that kind of at least deserve a little honorable mention?
Sure. Quickly, honorable mention. Um, glaring hole and a place that I haven't been yet is Whistling Straits. I would love to go and play at Kohler, at all the courses at Kohler, but Whistling Straits in particular is just one that you know has been on my radar for a long, long time. Um, with its championship pedigree and lakeside views, um, just have to cross that one off. So that would be at the top of my list, and then a couple that I'm interested in. I've got a trip or two down to the Palm Beach, West Palm Beach area of Florida. And while I'm in that area, I would love to get over to the Palm Beach Par 3, thought of as one of the best Par 3 courses in America, out there on a finger, uh, not necessarily an island, but one of the strips of beachfront properties in Palm Beach, or the Park West Palm, another Gil Hands project restoration. Heard good things about that place as well. So those would be in two or three that I'd like to check off. To maybe we'll get that done. We're supposed to. Joe and I are both going down to Apogee Club to check out their second course in the coming week. So we will have already gone on that trip by the time you listen to this episode, but uh, potentially could cross those off this week. How about you? Do you have any other honorable mentions?
Well, the one that I singled out when you and I last did this exercise a couple of years ago still stays right at the top of my list. I mean, in there, certainly among the top five, and that is American Dunes, the golf course in Michigan that Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney and his family established. It had been the Grand Haven Muni, well regarded, but didn't take advantage enough of the sandy site and the water views and so forth. And Jack Nicklaus came in and pretty much did it for free. And the whole concept of celebrating uh, our heroes that have been wounded, um, you know, or killed in action, or first responders, all tied to the Folds of Honor and the foundation that helps the families of the fallen. I still think it's a phenomenal concept and what sounds like a very good golf course. So combine those two, a lot of very patriotic bells and whistles in acknowledging how great the military has been in protecting us for all these years. It definitely worth seeing. And a more low-key Midwestern golf course is one that has been on my list forever. And I mean, like, the list I do for 25 years is Prairie Dunes in Hutchinson, Kansas. which has hosted its share of important tournaments and had all kinds of great players come through. It's been described for years again as maybe the most links-like, even though it's completely inland, of all of America's top-ranked courses. In the way that the vegetation and the wind and the contouring of the ground that Perry Maxwell and then his son Press did. So, yeah, again, while I'm still traveling a bit, it would be fun to finally get to Prairie Dunes.
A little bit of Scotland in the land of Oz is what they
Mm.
say about Prairie Dunes. Very cool. Uh, got a lot to wish for. New Year's Eve, when the ball drops, I'll be throwing up a wish for all these courses for you, Joe, and for myself. And if we can go to all six together, that would be even better. So we'll see what happens.
All right, I'll thank you. And next time we do this, I'm asking for more strokes.
We'll see. We'll see.
Come on.
Mm, I don't give them out so easily. All right, Joe.
All right.
Thanks again for the
All right, Al.
conversation. See you next
Yep.
time.
Good fun today. See you next time.